Hi, it's me. I haven't made a video in a long time, I guess. Can't remember when the last time was, but it was a while ago. So I felt like it was time for an update. I just wanted to update by saying I'm thinking about my light environment a lot more. It's not all about food, what I do. If you don't know what I essentially do, um, I am, I guess you'd kind of say I'm a patient advocate with a cancer patient, yeah, health advocate with, well, I was diagnosed with brain cancer almost 3 years ago now, after brain hemorrhage, and feels like ages ago, especially with the way I'm feeling at the moment, which is pretty good, which is probably why I haven't done a video in a long time. Also, I try to, yeah, as I say, I'm trying to improve my light environment, so that's why I'm wearing these dorky blue light blockers. And it's also why I'm trying, even though it's quite difficult, especially as a student at university, I'm trying to, what was I going to say? Yeah, you can tell this isn't planned. I am trying to cut use of technology down to as little as possible throughout the day, which is quite difficult. As I've just said, I'm repeating myself, but it's good to repeat yourself sometimes because people get the message. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing currently. So, I have, for those of you who don't know, I have been treating my cancer and epilepsy that I had as a result of the brain tumor with a restricted ketogenic diet, also looking at my sleep quality. And another thing that I do, which I haven't spoken about much, is that I do some fasting as well, spontaneous fasts. And currently I'm experimenting with different kinds of light, and that is very interesting. And if you look at melatonin, and say if you just do a Google search for melatonin and cancer, Google Scholar, not Google. Google will give you loads of weird stuff with some scientific things, but it's always best to go with peer-reviewed studies. So things that people have actually validated as being data that you can trust and isn't biased from this alternative wacky angle, which is often the problem when cancer patients are studying these things. So I follow a restricted ketogenic diet, and I also think about other lifestyle factors. So I have included my an article that was written about me on my kind of approach that I follow in New Scientist magazine. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, and it was great just to get the message out there. And there are going to be clinical trials at some point, hopefully this year. I think it's going to be this year, at Charing Cross Hospital, to do with the ketogenic diet. Now, my specific type of ketogenic diet that I follow is a restricted ketogenic diet that restricts protein. It's zero carb, so negligible carbohydrate that comes from things like eggs, which have a very small amount of carbs. It's just from protein, so it's kind of a bit different, and also I eat insects, so um, the animal fiber counts as carbs, even though it's like nothing really. I don't notice any difference on my glucose and ketone blood glucose and blood ketone readings that I measure. It actually gives me improvements and allows me to limit protein to the amount that just my body needs and no more. Another thing I do is I do a lot of Pilates type exercises, and I find that that keeps my blood glucose low and stable. So because exercise is a seizure trigger for me if it's too stimulating, um, I have to do exercises like Pilates, and I find that not only does it stimulate my brain in a way that I kind of like, I like the challenge of that. I think it might be good for my just good for my brain in general. And I do a lot of walking. I think walking is very good for the brain, and I try to walk as much as I can. I think that also when you're in that kind of intensity with continuous exercise, you're actually using more fat for energy, just in terms of like a balance. So if you're doing more intense exercise, you will be using the glycogen, even though we can also use intramuscular fat to help with these intense muscle contractions, which it's always been termed as being that you use fat primarily for these endurance-based events, but I think that there's more to that. I think there's more that we haven't explored fully. Just looking at how keto-adapted athletes can excel quite well in these power and strength pursuits, power and strength athletic endeavors. So that's very interesting. I also find that at the moment in particular, I feel as though I'm very sharp mentally. So I've been doing a ketogenic diet for almost 3 years now. So I feel like the longer you do it, the more you feel this mental clarity and acuity, I want to say. I don't know if that's the appropriate word, but this mental, it's kind of like a fog being lifted, um, especially if you've had quite debilitating epilepsy, which I did have for a long time. So being completely off medication now, and having been this way for a good few months now, almost, I'd say about half a year it's been, so that's pretty cool. Completely off medication. It took me just over 2 years to do that. I did it very slowly, and I wouldn't recommend it unless you really know what you're doing. But yeah, I just wanted to update what I was doing, and at the moment I'm doing some fun stuff. The main aims for me now is, of course, to continue to optimize this approach and learn more, but to also integrate this into my university studies. So that's the first aim. The second aim is to try and have a life outside of talking about ketogenic diets and cancer and all this stuff, because although it's a fantastic thing, it can be mentally just not draining, but mentally taxing in some ways. Just when you're thinking about something all the time, it's good to always have a break. And I am planning on going on a holiday in the sunshine sometime soon. We have lots of links between optimal levels of vitamin D and lower risk of cancer progression, and so going in the sun would be fantastic. I've also been using a special kind of sunbed recently, only once or twice a week, just as a little experiment that I'm doing. It's a kind of sunbed that has a particular range of UVB and UVA. It's very specific to my individual requirements and my individual skin tone. So it is very specific for me, and I don't want to detail that too much because I don't want people to try and copy it, and I don't want people to see it as advice, because everything that I try to express to people about my approach is simply, I see it as information that I'm giving. I'm not giving anyone advice on what to do. I also believe in personalized medicine to a degree. I know there are generalities that will be suitable for the majority of people, which is fantastic. And for me, that would be the simple changes in diet where you are, for example, where you are decreasing or cutting out completely carbohydrates. You don't have to cut them out completely with certain cancers and certain methods of approach to any kind of disease, really. But it is, preferential to at least cut down. Certainly with the things like grains and just refined carbohydrates, starchy carbohydrates. So yeah, a proper whole foods approach that cuts out starchy foods, and not necessarily like my approach, which is just cutting out carbohydrate completely, so I don't have to think about it. One of the main benefits that I find with that is I don't have to count carbohydrates, and that I want to say elicits. It provides a certain amount of freedom. It's extremely liberating not having to count carbohydrates, and meals are extremely simple. I just count amounts of fat and protein, and if I don't feel like eating, I don't. I do a lot of spontaneous fasts where if I don't want to think about eating, or if I don't feel like eating, I just don't. And I can, if I want to put on weight, I can do that. If I want to, it's very difficult, but I can try. I'm achieving that at the moment, but it is quite challenging, as I say. Another thing I'm doing quite soon, tomorrow actually, is doing some filming for a very interesting program that is completely out of my comfort zone, and I don't know why I'm doing it, but it has nothing to do with ketogenic diets, nothing to do with cancer, nothing to do with anything really that you would associate with me. So I don't know why I'm doing it, but mainly because it sounds like fun. It's an interesting thing to do, and I will keep you updated on that. So yeah, I don't know who would be interested in watching this video, but it's kind of all over the place. But yeah, as I say, I've had, well, as you can kind of tell by the New Scientist article, which I'll try and link below somewhere. I'm not great with video editing, so I'll just put it in the description. Yeah, I do I've done a restricted ketogenic diet for nearly 3 years. I've toyed about with it at times. It's a high DHA ketogenic diet, which is docosahexaonic acid. So that is a type of fatty acid that you primarily get from the main source that we know of, especially in this country, is oily fish, but you can get it from grass-fed animals. I get it from oily fish, organ meats like sweetbreads. They're quite high in omega-3 fatty acids. You can get it from things like flaxseed as well, but that's not DHA, that is ALA, which has a poor conversion rate to DHA and EPA. So it has its own benefits, I'm sure, but there's a lot of debate about phytoestrogens and flaxseed. So I am still on the fence about that one. I don't know exactly what to think, but because I don't eat these plant foods anyway, I still, not sure what to think about that debate in particular. It's very interesting. It may not have any foundation to it, I don't know. But it's certainly very interesting. Yeah, I've got quite a busy week coming up, and I'm aiming to do as much as I can. I'm aiming to experiment with a few new things, which should be a lot of fun. At the moment, I'm looking into cannabidiol as it's the non-psychoactive component of cannabis plants and hemp. So that is also a very interesting area. I want to see how that affects the epilepsy, even though I have quite impressive seizure control at the moment in terms of seizure activity. So I don't have seizures anymore of the typical kind I used to. I get seizure activity, which is on a scale, and that typically goes with my circadian rhythms. So I have a period of the day where my seizure threshold is at its lowest, and I try to mitigate that by taking in just some filtered water with magnesium chloride solution that I make up to my specific requirements, and I find that can help to maintain trace element homeostasis in my brain. So that enables me to control the I want to say electrical dissonance. I don't know if that's the correct term, but the kind of imbalance that you get in, particularly in the brain of someone with my kind of epilepsy. So temporal lobe epilepsy is typically the type of epilepsy where you can actually get feedback from, typically because you get you would usually get with temporal lobe epilepsy some kind of warning that a seizure is going to occur. So I would typically receive or would typically sense an aura. It's called an aura. So an aura is essentially a partial seizure. So I get numerous partial seizures around the same time of day every day, and this is, as I say, it's mitigated by the measures I take to replace my anti-epileptic drugs that I used to get with. It's quite humorous because it's with the with the elements that the drugs cause deficiency in. So the deficiencies are that the drugs cause, and and also the trace elements and and general elements that are deficient in the brain of someone with epilepsy and with a compromised blood-brain barrier. So that just means that the blood-brain barrier permeability is not as it once was because it's been damaged. So particularly if you're a brain cancer patient who has had radiotherapy and surgery, that has caused damage to your blood-brain barrier. So you've heard the term leaky guts, and with these types of neurodegenerative diseases, and with epilepsy to a degree, depending on type of epilepsy and how many seizures someone has had in their past, and all these different things, you can get this this kind of leaky brain situation where you would require more of these elements that you are deficient in as a result. So that includes things like magnesium. Magnesium is huge for regulation of this neuronal activity that can cause this disturbance where your synapses are misfiring, and you get this overstimulation in the brain. There's too much going on, for want of a better explanation. And you can regulate that with magnesium. I can't remember the exact thing that it works on specifically, but it works in a variety of ways. I've written an essay on this for an essay competition actually, and I hope it does well, but it's written kind of jumbly and in a jumbled manner, even though the message I think is very interesting, and it provides a lot of insight into what is happening at the cellular level, in the microenvironment of the brain, especially in someone with an acquired brain injury. So yes, magnesium, vitamin D, it has anticonvulsant benefits and the anti-cancer benefits that I mentioned earlier. Better to get vitamin D from sunlight, rather than, as it's a hormone that is synthesized, I think that's the proper word, by the sun just going to the skin, and then it's synthesized in that way. So yes, ideally get it from the sun. In the UK it's not ideal for that. You don't get enough of it, specifically to not just in terms of the type of UV that we need, in terms of the amounts of UVA and UVB. It's quite a not specific, but it's a topic you could go on for a long time. It's quite an exhaustive topic if I was to try and explain it. even though I'm still looking into it. So I'm still learning about that, even though I know the basics. When I can't get enough vitamin D from the sun, which is a lot of the time, I do take a liquid vitamin D supplement that is combined with K2, because they work, they actually work synergistically. And the great thing about being on a ketogenic diet as well is that if you are intaking a lot of fat and especially saturated fat, you are it complements and works synergistically with vitamin D synthesis and production. So even though that's kind of the same word, but you know what I mean. So a high-fat diet and vitamin D and good sleep, all these things. Trying to regulate your light environment. I don't have any lights on at the moment. Past it's 5:20 p.m. So 17:19 to be exact at the moment. And if I do use technology at this time, as I am, I always wear these. I'm actually getting into the habit of wearing them just throughout the day as well. Even though people give me funny looks, I couldn't care less anymore. And exercise. I think that exercise is very important. So the type of exercise that I do is I walk, as I said, and I do Pilates. So I think my brain likes it, and I spend a lot of time reading. I just need to sort out the other aspects of my life, the social aspects, and that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. So this has been my long-awaited, I don't know if long-awaited is correct, the correct way to say it, but it's been my it's been emotional. No, it's been my, yeah, what, how would I say this? It has been my, it's been something that I should have done a while ago, I guess. My long abated video, I guess you'd say. A long time in the making, I guess. A long time in the production of. There we go. No, a long time in the... See, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm not going to finish this video until I get it. A long time in the contemplation of creation of input, no, of yeah, bye anyway. That's a long time in the, hang on, I'll get this, I'll get it. A long time in the thought process of production. Let's say that, even though I could do better. Anyway, I will see you another time, I guess. Bye.